any wargame, anytime. Welcome to the podcast, everyone. We are Any Wargames, Anytime, and we're here to talk about all things wargaming. My name's Bozz, and I've played a whole bunch of sci-fi wargames, a whole bunch of tabletop RPGs, and right now I'm interested in one-page rules and all the cool things they do. Dan, who are you?
Hi, I am Dan, and I am frightened that we are allowed to just start a podcast and that people can just listen to us. It's pretty frightening that you don't need a certification to start a podcast. You can just be like, "Hey, we want to talk about stuff." I'm amazed that it's so easy to start a podcast and you don't have. But so I'm Daniel, by the way. I've been into 40K and wargaming pretty much for almost 30 years now. I think this next year is going to be 30 years when I picked up my first Warhammer Quest mini for Warhammer Quest back in 1994. So since then, I've had an amazing journey. I love war games, just like you, Boz. I love dabbling. I'm not committed to one particular war game. I like playing all sorts of stuff. So glad to be here, and I hope that you enjoy our opinions, if not agree with them. So thank you.
Well, I guess that leaves me. I'm Sam. I played Warhammer Fantasy starting when I was like 15 years old. Also very into tabletop role-playing games. I DM a lot for the groups that I'm in. Went from Warhammer Fantasy to Kings of War, and then looking into OPR now because they've been doing some really interesting stuff. But I've been an avid wargamer for a couple decades now almost. And
We're showing our age.
Oh, yes.
I know. Gosh.
We're all just codgers up here. Just
yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a and I'm just always been a big war gamer and interested in trying more things and learning and whatnot. So yeah.
Cool. Well, tonight we're going to talk about Kings of War, which is a game that I know absolutely zero about. I'd never even heard of it until a couple of days ago.
Which is surprising. Yeah,
it's surprising because, like I said, I dabble in lots of stuff. I play a lot of games, and I'd never heard of it.
Yeah, so, it's crazy. To us, it is. We are in the little insular Kings of War community, and so, but it is a reality check for us, I guess.
Yes, and hopefully, if anybody's listening to this, it will be a reality check for them as well. There's some people who need to know that that I think currently don't, and we can get into why that is as we kind of delve into our topic today too. So,
yeah, and I want to say I appreciate Bozz's patience. I think this is a good opportunity. We originally were thinking me and Sam would do this overview of the U.S. Masters 2023 lists, but we're like, Bozz has never experienced anything about Kings of War. And so we thought it'd be very interesting to see like what he thinks about all this at the end, right? We're going to be presenting some lists. We're going to be talking about stuff that probably goes over Bozz's head just right now, but we don't even know what Bozz is even going to say, but we think it's going to be really interesting, right? Like we basically, Bozz, am I correct? You can second this. We haven't given you any information, right?
No, and I have very consciously avoided looking up anything at all about this game, anything about the tournaments, about the armies. I am completely fresh.
Yeah, and it's going to be so interesting because we are going to introduce you to the best lists, the best players in the United States. And for me and Sam, I think that we can both agree that these lists are very competitive, very good, and that these players are some of the best war gamers that are, I think, currently on the planet, or at least in the United States. These are some of the best tactical war gamers. What do you think about this? Am I overplaying that?
Yeah, yeah. At least in the U.S. for sure. I mean, you and I have played against several of these players, and some of them I know personally, and yes, yeah. Many of them are. This is the top cream of the crop in terms of the U.S. For war gamers.
Yeah. So we're going to go into the list. What me and Sam have done, we have picked three armies, three different armies. We're going to talk about why we think those armies are so great. And we're going to talk about why we think those three armies are going to win this best of the best. And the way that me and Sam are also approaching this is, since this is the best of the best, we're kind of putting player skill kind of as a little bit of less of a factor. We're assuming that basically player skill is much more of a feature in a local tournament when you have players like me and Sam who are just kind of coming over there. These are the best players, right? These are the guys whose, I think, skill levels are at another level. And so when you get this high, skill level is important, but it's not as important as your local tournament. So saying that me and Sam are picking lists with that consideration, we're saying player skill isn't as important here.
Yeah,
so
let's assume that everybody's roughly the same level.
That's right. That's right. So I'm going to start out here, and I want to go into the lists that we've talked about. I want to give, before I start my lists, I'm going to talk about my criteria for why I'm picking this armies. So I've got several criteria. I'm just going to run through them. So my first criteria in picking these three armies is they have to beat Goblin armies. I've seen the Goblin armies in this tournament. They're nasty. They are good. Goblin armies are going to be a force to be reckoned with in this tournament. And I picked these three armies because they can deal with Goblin armies. And that's the only reason that I haven't put a Goblin army in my top three, because I feel these lists can deal with Goblin armies. The other thing that I'm considering is I'm looking at a single list, and that is Jeff Radigan's Scorchwing spam. That is 8 Scorchwings, with some additional supports. The only reason that I'm not picking Jeff Radigan's list is because I have looked at 3 lists that I feel can actually beat Jeff Radigan's Scorchwings. Another things that I'm considering, I'm looking for high unit strength and high effective unit strength. We're going to get into that. Not that a unit has unit strength, but it can contribute unit strength while also contributing to the battle. I'm going to look for armies that have enough shooting that can one-shot units without a chance to heal. From what I'm seeing in this tournament, it's all about having enough shooting to blow up a unit so that your opponent can't heal it. Kind of seconding that point, I'm looking for armies that have little to no heal, and I'm also looking for armies that have little to no magic items. So I am looking for armies that are very fine-tuned. They're fine-tuned so much so that they don't feel they need to fit in some magic items in there. So with that the case, we're going to start going through these lists. So my first list, and I have to talk about him as first because my other 2 lists, they have to beat this list. This list is head and shoulders above, for me, above every other list in this tournament, and that is Tom Annis's dwarf list. Oh my goodness, Tom, what did one of those Masters players do to you for you to bring this list? I mean, this list is just absolutely disgusting. I mean,
we know the answer to that, by the way. But.
Yeah. So, but we're going to read through the list. So in case obviously King's War players, we're going to read through the list quickly. We're going to assume you've all read these lists, but I'm going to run through it fast. 4 Ironclads, all with Throwing Mastiff, all hordes. What a great pick. He's not going for Iron Guard. He knows where the true value is. It's in Ironclad hordes. Great pick. 4 Sharpshooter regiments. Great pick. Not 3. You need 4. You need that extra 1 for volume of fire. He has got 3 Flame Belchers. 3 of them. That's a 14-inch range. That right there. By the way, here's the thing. That's an effective 18-inch range. Speed 4 with a 14-inch. That is Scorchwing range. If a Scorchwing doesn't kill this unit is going to at least probably waver that Scorchwing here. So the Flame Belchers, just such a good pick. 3 battle drills. What some great picks. And we're going to talk about why these battle drills are so important to his army. They're great chaff, but you know what they also are? They are great ways to stop the there is some armies that are bringing Wind Blast and are bringing Enthrall. These units I know because I play Kingdoms of Men. I use these units to stop my units from beginning move, right? You can place these guys at a 45-degree angle so that your units, that person who thinks he's going to Wind Blast your units away, he's not going to Wind Blast them away. So the 3 battle drills. Okay, here is where let's just continue down the disgusting train. 3 Juggernauts, 3 Steel Juggernauts here. That is 3 Def 6-13 with a 24-inch range, steady aim, Pierce 2. These guys are nimble as well. These guys right here are so effective on unit strength. This is the type of model that I'm looking for here. I'm looking for a model that can sit on an objective and then 24-inch across the board, they can be contributing to the battlefield. So here he's sitting on the objective, right? His little 1 unit strength, and he's firing, right? These guys are tough enough that chaff can't kill them, right? You send some little dinky chaff unit into this unit, they're going to survive it. They're going to kill your chaff, and then they're going to start continuing to shoot. And on top of that, he's bringing favor. So 18 units, 24 unit strength, but that is 24 very effective unit strength to me. To me, this army fulfills everything, right? It can deal with goblins, right? You have so much shooting, which can just shoot over those rabble regiments, take out the things he wants to take out. You've got the battle drills for Wind Blast spam. And again, no healing, right? He has just got a lot of tough defense, no healing, no magic items. I mean, just a fine-tuned list. So, Tom, it's a disgusting list, but I mean, I am gladly and very confidently putting my opinion on this tournament behind you. I think this is a great list. Yeah, go ahead, Sam. I'll let you speak.
All right. So I
Yeah, you go ahead. We have differences. We disagree.
Yeah. I think Tom's list is probably the best of the dwarf list, and there's a surprising number of dwarf lists in the tournament. I'm hoping that dwarves do well enough in general that they nix the idea of the buff that they're talking about.
Oh my goodness!
That's
Let's not even talk about that.
Yeah, but that's why I want dwarfs to do well in Masters. There is one really glaring weakness with Tom's list. It's very slow. That nothing has higher than speed 5. If he plays invade, I mean, maybe he gets some things across by the end. There's going to be some scenarios that he's going to have a real hard time with. Because it's so slow. And
I'm gonna have to. Yeah, I'm just gonna have to push back on that because Tom's list can take a punch. 4 units of ironclads, all with throwing mastiffs. So those four units are going to be able to throw their throwing mastiffs and blow up whatever they're in front of. They're going to blow up that 1 unit and just keep on marching. And yes, he is slow, but he has so much long range fire that he can move up his side of the field and then get and invade and basically shoot his opponent's stuff on the other side of the field, right? But it is a disadvantage. I will agree with you that it is a disadvantage, but I do feel that Tom has accounted for it. So I will give you that, Tim. That's correct.
Sure. I think that he is going to do well against a lot of the other spam lists. I think where he's going to struggle is a good Alpha Strike list, and which will at some point get into my number 1 pick too.
Yeah. Okay. Well, fair enough. So I'm going to talk about my second pick, and that is Joseph. I think it's Schiltgen. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. I did go to some translate website. It's Schiltgen, and Jeff Schiltgen. He's bringing the Snogers. This is an army that I think is doing basically what Tom is doing, but not quite as well. And that is, he's just got a great front line. I mean, the Siege Breakers, the Warriors, what are they? Tough 5, tough 6. They hit hard, right? What he also has is he's got a stealth, which I think is very important. He can handle shooting. He's got the stealth bubble with the triumvirates. He's got 3 sergeants. Now, these guys are just like Faber. And, when we're talking about comparison, right? If we look at the Steel Juggernauts of Tom, these sergeants are doing the exact same thing, right? They're running around, they're grabbing an objective, and then they're shooting across the board, right? They've got, and that's 3 of them, right? And these guys are also tough enough that 13-15, you can't just send chaff into this unit. They're elite, by the way. I want to make sure we are all seeing that they're inspiring themselves and they're elite. They're self-contained, right? In other words, you can't just send chaff into these units. They're going to kill the chaff and they're going to keep on shooting their bows at you. So the 3 sergeants are great. And then he's running the ogre warlocks. Now, I do want to preface this and say that I have seen a couple of other ogre lists that are similar to this. I just think that Jeff's list is a little more streamlined. I don't see any magic item in this list. I see he's very careful and strategic about spending on extra spells. I love that he's only brought 1 drain life. He's not trying to bring it on all his spellcasters. Again, he's thinking efficiently, right? 15 units, 26 unit strength, but it's effective unit strength, right? It's a lot of these guys, everything scores and everything can take a score and then be contributing to the battlefield across the field. So I think that Jeff Slitkin's army is great. I think Tom's is a little better, but I think that Jeff's is great. What do you think about that, Sam?
I think the one thing I would think is not good in his list is actually those sergeants. I think the crossbows are a trap. I've been playing around with them. They look good on paper, but the sergeants with the crossbows don't actually work because they have to go down to defense 4. It's only a 5-up shooting, and one of the kind of advantages you have, like versus comparatively that to like the dwarf juggernauts or whatnot, is in the dwarf list, those juggernauts can, when they need to, see over the other dwarfs, right?
Yeah.
And ogres, one of the things that doesn't get talked about in ogres very often, one of the kind of internal balancing of their characters is that, well, if everything's the same height, that means that your characters oftentimes have trouble getting where they need to go because your other ogres are blocking their line of sight, and that is a pretty significant hurdle for ogres, more so than I think a lot of times people realize. But I've been playing with ogres a bit for this last year, and it's one of the things that you really gotta. Now, a good ogre player knows how to do that and maneuver that, but it does mean a lot of times that I think there are things like these sergeants with the crossbows that look better than they actually are.
Yeah, I played. I forgot. My last opponent in Lone Wolf was an ogre player, and he ran these sergeants. And one of the things to me that pops out to you is they're crush 2. They're hitting on 3s and crush 2. These guys don't have to play back. They can actually be shooting, and they can hit flanks. That's 10 attacks in the flank, hitting on 3s, crush 2.
So my point is, I would rather them just be the berserker bullies. I think the berserker bullies are so much better than the sergeants with crossbows. And like, yes, you lose the shooting attacks, but quite honestly, like, I don't think the shooting attacks are impactful enough. I would rather take the berserker bullies. I think they're a little bit more points. I don't have the.
Well, we'll agree to disagree on this one because I like these guys decidedly over bullies. And that's because they can. It's unit strength threat protection. A berserker bully, if it wants to grab an objective on the other side of the board, it can't do anything. These guys also have a 30-inch range, and they also have nimble, so they can very, very easily net. Again, I'm assuming this guy, this Jeff, he's good. He's not me. This guy is better than me. And I think this guy, he knows how to maneuver. It's a 6 move and nimble on those ogres. So I'm assuming this Jeff guy, he knows his setup. He's got it tight. And so that, like, in other words, I could play this army well, but I think played at its best, I'm going to give Jeff. And so we'll agree to disagree, but that's my thoughts on it. I think that Jeff, he knows what he's doing. Yeah. But, okay. But my last list is a Night Stalker list, and that is Jonathan Nesson's. I love this list. I think that he's avoiding a lot of the traps. He has no heal on this list. It's pure hand-to-hand, but the big getcha here, he's got those 4 units of Soul Flares. That is 20 Wind Blast. Now, as you can kind of see, what is his magic items? Very slim, right? He's got a blade of slashing. One of the things I think that made me like this guy's list so bad, and the way he thinks on his scarecrows, right? He has got a regiment of scarecrows. He's got 3 phantoms, 4 units, 4 hordes of butchers, 4 soul slayers. He's got a horror rift weaver. The portal of despair is great to get out inspiring. He's good. He's protected against shooting, and he's got 2 butcher flesh rippers, which are they're just terrific for 110. But look what he has on those scarecrows. He's got the warbow of Kaba on those scarecrows. This is so smart. It's a 5-point item. These scarecrows, they're going to be sitting on some objective out in the corner, and you know what they're going to be doing? They're going to be shooting. They're going to be shooting. It's such a great pick. And it shows you he's thinking extremely efficiently with his points. That warbow, that 5-point item, I think will win him a game or two in this tournament because he's able to plink off that 1 wound, right? You got a heavily wounded unit, hits them with 1 more wound with a warbow, takes off the field. So I love the warbow on this unit. But I think that the MVPs for his army is the Wind Blast, right? How is he going to deal with a lot of the goblins and a lot of these other units? He's going to on averages move a series of units 10 inches any direction. You move some of those goblin war trombones and stuff back 5 or 10 inches, they're out of the game. Like they're effectively dead, right? So I love the 4 soul flares. I'm not going to get into balance issues. We'll talk about that in a later episode. Needless to say, 4 soul flares are amazing. Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, so I think this is a pretty good list. I think that it was a little surprising that in general there weren't as many Night Stalker lists as I was expecting. But I think it's in part because this is still using the old Night Stalkers, not the Masters isn't using the new
That's right.
Night Stalker list that just came out. So I suspect that a lot of people didn't really want to go back to the old Night Stalkers. There's a couple things I would question in his list: the Rift Weavers and the Portal. I don't think the Portal's actually really that necessary.
I love this disagreement we got.
Yeah,
that Portal. That's the reason I picked this list.
Yeah,
such a great pick.
I don't think the Portal's good. I just don't think the Portal's good.
Yeah, I think Portal's great. It's Dread. Again, what does it have? It's got 1 unit strength. You can just keep this thing behind. And the key thing is it's an anti-shooting measure. Remember, people bringing enough shooting that they're going to overcome stealth. Now, I will say this. I'm assuming that Jonathan, again, I'm assuming he's a better player than me. And because at a high level, this is what I'm looking at. Jonathan, I'm assuming he's a high-level player. A high-level player is going to know how to use terrain because here's the deal. Stealth isn't enough for these level of shootings in some of these armies. You're going to have to be in terrain and stealth. And Jonathan, I think, is a good enough player. He's going to use terrain to his advantage. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Master's terrain too is going to have a lot more open field than like a lot of times you and I would play. I don't know if
we'll see. I mean, I am assuming that it's going to be a decent level of terrain, and I think that again, I'm assuming that Jonathan is a high level player. He is going to really know how to use terrain to his benefit because that's how he's going to survive shooting armies. It's getting the -2, right? And he does have the phantoms. He does have the phantoms too.
I would have rather taken off the Rift Weavers, the Portal, and the Flesh Rippers for like 2-planar apparitions, and then something else. I think that would have been a better. You don't like planar apparitions?
Yeah, no. I don't. Again, I think that his army is fine-tuned. He again, what he is doing, he is surviving just long enough to get there to kill what he needs to do, and then that's it. And to me, any army that's running significant heal for me personally, I don't think it's a good thing to run. I think heal is bad right now in this meta. But I think Sam, he makes a great point, and that's the great thing about me and Sam. We both of us have brought 3 different lists, and I think it's great that, like I said, we've got our disagreements, but I think that I think that shows a level that there is a lot of interest. Like I said, even at top level, we are seeing a lot of interesting builds. So yeah, okay. Well, that's my three. Sam's had his fun shooting down my three picks.
Yeah.
It's time for me to do the same.
All right. So my number one, if you want to pull over to Lex, is Lex's list.
Yeah.
And not just because he beat me real bad with this in our last local tournament. But
let's read through the list real fast. Sam, I'll let you read through.
Yeah, okay. So it's very easy, right? He's got 3 regiments of Alohi, one of them with fire oil. He's got 3 hordes of Alohi, one of them with brew of strength, one of them with helm of the drunken ram.
He's got 5 regiments of Alohi, 5 of them.
5, yeah, 5 regiments of Alohi and 3 hordes. And then the hordes have, one of them is brew of strength, one of them has helm of the drunken ram, and one of them has the celestial fury to give them +1 crush and brew of sharpness. So hit on 2s. Yeah. He has 2 regular phoenixes and 1 ancient phoenix, and then he has a chaplain amount with hex and heal.
Hex, heal, conjure
and
staff.
The heals, and the heals are actually really relevant because the chaplains have the special rule cleanse. So if they heal something, it removes weakness from them. And so that's actually a really clutch thing in that. So I put Lex as my number 1 pick to win the tournament. I think this is his list is actually like it's very Olan, but it's actually very well situated against everything. Because the Alohi, even the regiments are not enough. Like it's actually really difficult to shoot off those regiments because they're defense 5-14. He's never resolve. Yeah, and iron resolve. And he's got the 3 phoenixes. So if you don't kill him in one go, too, it just doesn't matter. And the phoenix is good to shoot later. You know what I mean? Like the way he's played this list that I've seen him play it it's done very well. And quite honestly, it's very well situated against both the spam goblin lists and against the Jeff Radigan's, like the Scorchwings. Because the Scorchwings are only 18-inch range. So if they're in range to shoot your Alohi, he is in range to charge you with the Alohi, and the Alohi are going to fight much better in combat than the Scorchwings do. And they're going to grind them out much better. Phoenixes are absolutely broken right now. I mean, I love them. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to run. I run the same Phoenix setup in every army that I can that runs Phoenix, that can have Phoenixes.
Triple Phoenix.
They're disgustingly good, and they're so good, and they're so cheap right now. Really should be more expensive than they are. So yeah, I Lex's list, man, is really punishing. It's and one of the things that in key differences that kind of my criteria versus yours is I tend to highly value speed more. And
that is our big difference, our big disagreement.
Part of the reason is okay. So a lot of the lists that you picked, and this is kind of what I would say, and the reason I picked speed higher is I think a lot of the lists you picked, the more kind of grindy lists with a lot of shooting, they're going to do decently, and they're going to get like 13, 14-point wins in their games. They're going to struggle to have the overwhelming wins. And that's where and one of the reasons you kind of historically in Kings of War see the high speed alpha strike armies played at the high level is because they're the lists that are capable of tabling people.
I
that
agree.
are capable of getting the big wins, which then puts them, and if you're in a field where again you're playing against some of the best, if your wins are giving you and Masters, for those of you who don't know, uses a blackjack scoring system, so there's 21 points total, and you get a certain amount for winning, and then it's modified by how big you win. It's like 7 to 14. It's like 14 points for winning and then 7 points for losing, and then that's modified by attrition and by how big your wins were. And what Lex's list has is that ability to win really big. And
Yeah, it does. And so I would say this. In a normal tournament, I would definitely give Lex a win. I think if we were going in a normal tournament, here's the deal. And I will kind of use that word as an exact reason that I don't think he's gonna do good this tournament. But here's the deal. You use the word punish. Lex is not in a normal tournament. Lex is in a tournament with the best of the best. The best of the best. I know, like I said, the best of the best know how to deal with Lex's list, right? These are people, these are not your average person. Again, that's the thing. In a normal tournament, Lex is going to go up against some average people, and he's going to destroy those people, and he's going to rack up a lot of points. I think that is how Lex can win tournaments and do very well. He's going to rack up tons of points against perhaps a person. Maybe he gets good luck around. This is Masters, and there are people in Masters who are bringing lists. They know how to deal with this. In other words, Lex,
you can know how to deal with this and still be really good.
No. I'd say this. I think that Lex, he may get punishment, but he's not going to be in a normal tournament where he's going to get 2 to 3 games of punishments. He's going to get, maybe if Lex is lucky, he's going to get one of these guys. Remember, these guys are freaking good. One of these guys is going to make one mistake. That's 1 out of 5. One of his games. I think generally this quality of level players, they know how to deal with this army. The other thing I will say is that 22 unit strength to me is just too low. I feel it's just too low. I think that he's just not effective. Now, we'll agree to disagree. And I think that Lex, don't get me wrong, Lex can win this tournament. I think this list it's not about whether he can win. I would say, and this is where we disagree, I don't feel on the list itself, he is going to get first place. So, but I think it's a great list. I'm not going to over disagree with you.
All right. In time constraints, we'll move on. But we'll
that's fair.
To that one later. So the other one I put is Jordan Braun's list, and
it's a good list.
And it has some really tricky things with like with Kapoka and the Forest Shamblers. I love Forest Shambler hordes. I've always loved Forest Shambler hordes. And when you can give them phalanx, it's even better.
and weakness. Weakness.
We have to have access to weakness.
And weakness.
Really good. Ooh. Yes. And then the greater elementals obviously are really good. Everyone who's played Kings of War recently knows that, greater elementals are disgustingly good right now. And then he's also got some Scorch Wings. He's a little light on unit strength. But I actually think that this list has a lot of potential. I don't know if I can even identify why. I think it's a bit more of an all-comers list than some other ones we've looked at. It's not all in, although it does have the 3 greater elementals, which is again super good. I think Kapoka is actually just and the phalanx on murder things is super good.
Yeah, he's great. He's great. I mean, the weakness, I think weakness is even more important on him. No, I completely agree. This is a great list. I mean, we know we both played Jordan. I apologize. We both played Jordan. He's a great player. I mean, like, obviously he's here. We've both experienced personally his wrath in games. So yeah, I think that my disagreement. So I don't in any way disagree with you on this list, and you didn't. So let's mention his list because we do want to talk about the 3 Scorchwing. So we'll just read off his list: 3 hordes of 4 Shamblers. With the Scout is great. He's got 3 units of Scorch Wings. So that is a significant amount of fire.
2 hordes and 1 regiment. Too.
Oh, sorry, 2 hordes, 1 regiment. I apologize. Thank you. Triple Air Elemental. He's got a Gladestalker Druid. He's running them. Again, he's running them just what he needs. I like that he's not added any extras. He's got the Surge. He's got the Shroud of the Saint. It's kind of the stock build. And I love the
Ring of Harmony, which lets them double cast an elemental.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's got the ring. It's kind of the general stock. Maybe the Forest Steed could be dropped, but I also think I'm okay with it. because here's the deal. I like that he isn't running a second one. Some of these lists try to fit in a second druid. I think he is right. You run of these druids and you run him with the horse. So I prefer this much better than I've seen a lot of these lists, which try to double up on the druid. I think Kapoka is what is going to be the MVP for him. And the tree herder, the wilt fodder. So again, just great. I'm gonna say this. I think that I feel the same way that I feel with Lex. Jordan in a normal tournament is going to win local. It's going to win. He's going to win GTs with this list. But part of that is, again, it is a list that punishes people. This and Lex's list, they are built around the moment your opponent makes one mistake, you're just going to not just kill him, you're going to crush him, right? Because that's how these lists work. Your opponent misplaces one thing by a centimeter, and you just absolutely are able to just crush him. The thing I'm going to, and I think that I'll go back to this. We both have played Jordan personally. He can win this tournament with this list. It's good. But I will say he's in the Masters, and he is going to get less opportunities to get. There are going to be opponents at this caliber are not going to give him that many opportunities for him to take advantage of a misstep, right? There's just, he and Lex's list both depend on opponents making mistakes. And when you go into Masters, those level of opponents are going to make less mistakes. So, but yeah, I still think it's really solid list. Kapoka is just great.
So we'll see. And then my final list pick is Dustin Howard. I tried, guys, to not pick three people in the South, but I couldn't do it. So
It's the best thing, yeah.
But yeah. But I'm not just rooting for my homeboys here, but
they're three solid lists.
Yeah.
And
Dustin's is different than the other two that I picked. And Dustin's, I think, is really deceptively good. So let's just go over the list real quick. He's got two regiments of skeleton spearmen. He's got two troops of mummies and two troops of skeleton warriors. Then he's got three hordes of enslaved guardians. And then he's got the kind of some of the standard stuff you see in all the Empire Dust lists. Soul Snare, Monolith, Idol of Shobek. And then he's also got one Bone Dragon. He's got Sebek Ray, the Accursed, and a Pharaoh on foot,
which is great. I like the Pharaoh on foot.
Yes,
I like that.
And then a did I miss anything? No. Sebek Ray. I got Shobek. Yeah, Shobek. Of course, there's Shobek. It is in every Empire Dust list, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just to make sure I forget that one.
Yeah. And there's the reason I like Dustin's list is it has a lot of the again, I think it has a lot of the potential to deal with some of the problem things that we've mentioned earlier. And it's got some kind of deceptively strong things. The troops of mummies are deceptively strong. Even though they're just troops, you actually have like mummies, you have to commit to killing them, which is really awkward at times. I also know that Dustin plays this. He's been playing Empire Dust for a long time, and he plays this type of list very well. Probably better than anyone I've ever seen play this type of list. It's almost hard to describe why I think that this is a very good list, but I think he's going to surprise a lot of people with both how tough it is and how potentially fast he can get things in. Because with the combination of Sebek Ray and the Monolith and the Pharaoh, he could throw a crap ton of surge at something, including that because the Bone Dragon is a skeleton, and so he gets the Sebek Ray's bonus against skeleton. He can throw that Bone Dragon, surge that into a rear or a flank very, very easily. Uh, and and I know we've this is kind of one of our differences is I actually think that there's still even at Masters, and the reason I've rated these three lists and these three kind of styles of play much higher than you is even at Masters. I think it's even more important that that one mistake your opponent makes, you have to be able to capitalize on it.
Yeah.
And because you are going to make a mistake in a game. Nobody plays a perfect game. And I mean, it's not possible to play a perfect game, I think, right? Unless I mean, it's a game with dice, so sometimes the dice just say what they
Yeah,
know.
and we can't account for, or at least I can't account for rolls, like actual dice rolls. That's just too much to. Dustin's a great player. I mean, he's proved that. I mean, he's won tournament. Like, let's not. I don't think. I don't
Well,
think either of us have to convince anyone that Dustin isn't a great player.
yeah.
Um.
But one of the things I want to point out too, is that sometimes, and this is kind of part of my philosophy in Kings of War, is sometimes you have to just kind of put your opponent into a position where you force them to deal with something, and either they deal with it or they don't. And this is a game with dice, so if you can kind of set up, and this is again the reason I like all three of these lists, is because what they have the ability to do is make your opponent make bad decisions, and that's where the I think the next level players, the really good players, shine is when you basically, and this kind of fits with my style of play too, as well, is you can kind of set up traps and give your opponent options, but just make them be bad options. And so they have to take the best of bad options, and you can bait them into things. And in the he's got the killing potential to kill through the big chat things with the enslaved guardians. I mean, those will obviously wreck stuff. And that's so that's my three lists.
I'll say I'll pine, and I'm not going to sound like a broken record because I think that, and this is where I think me and Sam probably disagree, that I think that Empire of Dust is an army that does great in regular GTs when you go up against some players who are, I would say, kind of middle of the road, like me and Sam. Like I said, we're good players, but I think that we're just not at that caliber. I think these sorts of armies do great there. But I think that, again, Dustin's army hinges really, again, he's got fighting power. I'm not going to say that he's not going to win the tournament. I mean, it's Dustin Howard, right? I mean, we don't even need to talk about his resume. I would say his army ultimately is going to win big, as you say, Sam, based off mistakes. And just in Masters, maybe they will make mistakes, but I'll say it this way. They are going to make less of these mistakes in Masters. You may have one game that you just blow through someone, but I know for myself, I have played, it's funny, I've played enough undead armies that I know how to deal with Surge, right? And to think that if I can deal with it at my level, how much more so can some of these Masters players can deal with Surge? They know what they're going up against. It's going to be much more difficult to gotcha these people. It's going to be much more difficult to kind of get. Now it can happen, and if there is one player, I would say this: of your three picks, if there is one player that can do it, it's Dustin, right? Because this is an army that is much harder. It's a much higher skill cap to play against this army than the other two. I think the other two are the air elementals, like Jordan's and Lex's. This is a much harder army because it has much more surge, right? And so I think that if anyone is going to do this, I think that Dustin Howard. I just don't think these sorts of armies that are going to win at normal GTs are going to do as well at Masters purely because of the skill level. But we'll see. I mean, like I said, we don't want to keep on because me and Sam could talk about this forever. So, and like I said, it'd be really.
Well, we will assuredly continue this conversation.
Yeah, I'm not here
in person too.
Yeah. Like I said, we didn't get a certification for this podcast. We're just like, we think we're smart. Let's start podcasting.
Yeah,
So,
and not to get too much into the politics of U.S. Masters either, but like the way it's set up to, like I don't want to say that I think you're over evaluating people's skill. I think in some ways you're under evaluating like the skill level of people like you and me. And not to toot my own horn or but we live in the South region, and there's a reason the South wins the best region every year and has
I
every
picked
year.
Tom Annis. I mean, Tom's from the South. I mean, I picked him.
Yeah, he's not playing for the South. He's a traitor.
Oh, he's not.
Yeah, he's mercenarying for one of the other regions.
Oh, who cares about that? He's in the South.
But
Tom's in the South.
He is. But it showed, one of the things it shows is that a lot of the other regions don't actually have the stash of good players that we have down here. And
I think that was true a few years ago, but I think they've caught up. I think they have. I mean, I think that
most of them have like 3 or 4 people who are in that top tier level, but they don't have a full Masters team.
Well, I would suggest, like I said, Jordan, Lex, and Dustin. Your goal, you need to get together and you need to, like I said, get a whole bunch of alcoholic drinks and just really try to just imbibe all your opponents to lower their skill level. Like, then you're going to do great.
Yeah, the old joke about Kings of War tournaments, Kings of War GTs is they're not so much gaming events as drinking events with attached gaming. You know?
Well, I appreciate. I think it's going to be a blast. I'm looking forward to seeing it. And it's going to be, like I said, let's have an episode after this where we kind of see who's right, who's wrong. Probably both of us are wrong. All right. I want to go back here. Bozz, you've been really great. So you have heard Kings of War. What's just your initial thoughts about what you've heard?
Okay, so my initial thought and the first kind of note that I wrote down to keep in my mind is this isn't anything new. It's very similar to a lot of other games. It's got its own jargon, and I don't know specifically what you're talking about, but I know enough of wargaming and fantasy wargaming in general that I can follow along without needing to know the specifics. I don't need to know what crushing strength is because I can infer from context, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's really obvious that the two of you have different play styles, which is really cool. And let's see. There was a unit called Boomer Chariots that gave me a bit of a laugh because I was just imagining, you know, some 50 or 60-year-old.
They're kind of a joke unit in general too. So it's like,
so hearing us talk, like, you can be honest, but would you be interested in getting into Kings of War, even if it, like I said, you just wanted to play? Do you think this is a game that sounds interesting to you? What do you think?
As somebody who's already into wargaming and is already a prolific dabbler, absolutely.
Okay, very cool.
Absolutely. It sounds like something that, as I said, would be so similar to other things that I've played that there probably wouldn't be a huge learning curve to get into it and have some casual fun with it. I'm not a huge tournament player anyway, but it sounds like it's accessible enough in that I can follow along with it.
That's good. That's good. And that's something that we in Kings of War are really trying to encourage, is to have a game has a lot of, it's the reason that we like Kings of War so much. It's not perfect. I mean, I think that we're going to have other episodes where perhaps we talk about some of the things that Kings of War can do. You can always improve, but it's nice to hear, because we didn't know what you were going to say, that it seems like this is a game that you're not overwhelmed, right? You feel kind of looking at things, you can be like, okay, I kind of get it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, coming into this completely fresh, nothing that I heard made me go, oh, what does that actually mean? What this seems like a barrier to getting into it. No. It just seems like, okay, it's probably the same rule I've heard a dozen times, worded differently and called a different thing.
Okay. Very cool.
Yep.
Very cool. Well, I think that's our segment. Bozz, what else? Do we have anything else on the agenda? What do you
Yes, we do. We need to make our picks. We need to make our predictions.
Okay.
Sam says Lex. What do you say?
I'm still going to have to stick with Tom Annis. I think that dwarf list is. I think it's still. I'm sticking with my. I don't care where he's representing. Tom's from the South. I mean, come on. So I don't. That's just basically other regions not being as good as and basically having to beg one of our players to go play for them. So I mean, I think that Tom. I think we're both picking two South people, and I got to go with Tom.
Yeah, and I'm picking Lex. I gotta. I think that even at this really high level, I think that Lex is very well situated to be kind of to really sweep the tournament in a way that we'll see.
I mean, my heart is off to Lex. I would love to get our second U.S. Masters in our gaming group. We got Pat.
Yeah.
So my heart is with you, Sam.
I know.
I want Lex or Jordan to win. My heart is right there with you. I really want Lex. Jesse too.
I mean, Dustin, he's come. I could be wrong that he has won U.S. Masters before. I think that he has not, but he's come really close at the very least. And Dustin probably is the like if I had to pick who I thought currently the best player in the U.S. is, that's probably who I would pick. But plus I just like Dustin. He's a great guy.
It's a good pick. I mean, like I said, there is going to be some skill differences, and I think that you're not wrong to acknowledge that Justin may be a little better. And I'm being political here. I'm trying to be political here.
And even more than that, I think that his list is well situated to both how he plays and to the style that of kind of setting these traps and forcing your opponent into bad decisions. Being a Surge Army means that he has a lot of he can't really get flanked easily. It's very hard to maneuver around this because, okay, I'm gonna try to come up on the flank, and then I'm just gonna turn and surge into you, and
right.
yeah.
Well, Bozz, we put in our votes.
Well, I'm actually going to go with Tom as well, purely because it's a dwarf list. I'm an experienced dwarf player of other games like Warhammer Fantasy and Middle Earth, and I know from looking at that list that they're still dwarves. They're still slow, but they're hard as nails.
Yeah.
So that's also my pick.
I love that list too. I don't want to get the wrong. I think it has some weaknesses, but I definitely wish Tom the best. I think has a lot of potential with this as well. So
yeah, he didn't fall in. I'm a dwarf player. That's my first army in Kings of War, and I love that he didn't fall for Iron Guard. I don't think that Iron Guard are good. I think it's Ironclads. I think Ironclads are just solid as rocks.
They're dirt cheap. It's less than 200 points with the throwing mastiffs. That's
195 for these guys.
Yeah, Def 5, 21, 23. I mean, come on. Unit strength 4.
Solid as rocks.
That's just and when you take 4 of them, it's you may kill 3 of them, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I see a lot of dwarf. Somehow, like I said, that Tom has got it right. It's Ironclads, man. It's not Iron Guard are okay, but it's Ironclads, man. Ironclads.
Yep. And just for the point value, his list does look. I think it looks amazing. It looks very efficient, and yeah, it's the only thing I think he's going to struggle with is depending on the scenario. He is going to struggle getting across the board, especially if it's invade, and he's going to struggle on some of that.
Okay.
And we'll see. It'll kind of depend on his matchups. There's going to be some scenarios that he's going to have problems with, but it'll really depend on his matchups on those scenarios, right? Yeah. If he fights another slow army, and invade, I think he'll do fine. But if it's going to depend. So
Well,
I think that
Boz,
about
anything
wraps
else
us
on our
up.
agenda?
No,
Yeah.
that's about everything. So we've been any wargaming, any war games anytime. I'll edit that in post. As Dan said, we don't have a license to do this. We're doing it completely piratical. So I hope you've enjoyed it, and stay tuned. We've got a lot of cool things coming up that we want to talk about. The next thing will probably be the results of this tournament and how wrong were we and why.
Mm-hmm. And we also are going to bring some OPR. I think that's where Boz is really going to step in. We've got a lot of thoughts on OPR as well. It's a good game system, but we're also going to get into what can it do to be better, right? Because I think there are some things that they need to work on. So we've got so many topics. It's oh my goodness, it's just trying to find the time. But thanks everyone.
all right, thank you.
Until next time.